It is the Fix California Hour. It is the John Phillips Show, and it's Jimmy Buffett Friday. Johnny is back on Monday, so it's Randy Wang here. The phone number to join us is 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. We'll read some of your emails coming up later. And you can search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. We're going to go right back to the phones at 1:30. If you want to comment on Gavin Newsom signing Scott Wiener's SB 79. So if you want to get on the phone for that, we'll be taking those calls at 1:30, 800-222-5222. But our next guest is running for Los Angeles mayor in 2026. Asaad Alnajjar, welcome to the John Phillips Show.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me. It's great to be with you.
Well, why don't we start off by telling everybody about yourself and why it is you're running for mayor against Karen Bass.
Well, I bring in 36 years of hands-on experience with the city of Los Angeles. Currently, I'm serving the city as a senior manager in charge of many multi-billion-dollar projects. I started back in 1989 with the Bureau of Street Lighting on working on lights and traffic lights. Got evolved to be involved into the team for the design build of the trains. And 11 years I served as community division manager for your 311 calls to take care of you. And the past 10 years, I've been active into sustainability, the interface, you name it, all the neighborhood councils for 25 years. So I bring in a blend of an engineer with an understanding of what the people want, and I'm not a politician. And that's where I make the difference. I know how City Hall works, and more importantly, I know how it should work efficiently, not the way it's the chaos we have today.
Well, since your background is in engineering, you even worked for the Bureau of Street Lighting, why don't we start with that? If you were mayor of Los Angeles, what would you be doing to crack down on all the copper wire theft that is literally leaving the city in darkness?
Right. So the past 22 years, I've been fighting to find so many solutions. And we are, from the engineering side, in a tough, awkward position. We tried etching the wire. We tried blocking the pull boxes. We tried, dye paint, like the ones the bank use. So the way it is right now, I have some measures of security. Unfortunately, I cannot share because, security reasons, but it will be solid, effective. And once I'm a mayor, I will have the resources and the people. Right now, where I am, we don't have enough yard people. We don't have enough money to do any mitigation. So in a way, once I address the budget, not only for my department, all the other departments, then the city will have services, not only the streetlights, potholes, you name it, sidewalks, all of the repairs that is required for the city. And I'll do it in 90 days, not the typical politician 100-day plan.
So if you're in charge, it's no longer going to be people use 311. 311 says that they fixed the problem and the streetlights are still out for 6 months.
I tell you what it is. They say it fixed the problem because the way I designed and I worked with the team on the original 311, it was designed in a way where we keep track of it. The way right now with the face remodeling they did, unfortunately, let's say I get a call and people will just say it's a traffic light. So from my perspective, we close it and we shift it to LADOT. And in reality, it didn't close. It's pending. The upgrade of the system of the 311 right now, it's a mess. And that's where you're having the problem. It shows closed because there is no way to say it was redirected to the correct personnel or to the correct crew or team to address the issue. That's where your problem is.
Another big 311 issue that we've been seeing a lot, especially in downtown Los Angeles, is the scourge of illegal dumping, which is happening almost on a daily basis. Literally, pallets and pallets of produce are stinking up the streets of downtown LA. What would you do about that?
So basically, those have a different issue. Those because a lot of the produce and a lot of the products coming in they get overloaded and overflooded, and it's cheaper for the trucks that is bringing it to throw it in the street than to take it to the dumpster. First, I will find a mitigation plan so that these trucks will not just dump because we are a dumpster of the city. Provide a haven area in which this product that is delivered and is not being used because it's overflow, somehow it makes it to the agriculture areas. We could use it for the animal feeding or something like that. I've talked to many of the vegetable outlets. The problem is the truckers dumping because it's cheaper to dump in the street than to take it away. That's what's going on.
Well, not only that, but from what I've heard from the Encino Neighborhood Council is the fines for illegal dumping sometimes are cheaper than taking something to the dump.
Yeah, you add to it. If you throw it in an alley without anybody noticing, then you're in heaven. You're in heaven and all that. It's one of those. We play revolving doors with the problems, and then now you're getting to the council offices. They are busy, some of them in their re-election, and the others busy into wild goose chases like the SB 79 that just got signed. So we have a dysfunctional council because they are already divided and they don't even know which way they want to go.
Well, since you mentioned it, why don't let's have you comment on the breaking news. This is going to affect everybody in Los Angeles, since Los Angeles County is one of the counties. Gavin Newsom just signed Scott Wiener's SB 79, which would upzone a whole bunch of areas near transit hubs. The city council and Karen Bass notably voted to oppose this measure. How do you feel about SB 79?
Right. So I've been vocal on SB 79 almost the past 9 months, which is SB 79, in the hardcore of it, it's good for California. But for Los Angeles, it's not good the way it's written. It was written by politicians who were never, ever involved in the planning of major cities like the city of LA, who have never been exposed to the design build of the transit system like I've been doing for 26 years. They have no knowledge on city utilities and operations. SB 79 does not address the main factor that is missing, the density in the Los Angeles area. And I just did actually an Instagram a video about it 3 days ago. There is areas in which we could apply SB 79. It's zoned in lands that are not in the middle of the houses, but they are close to the transit, and they will not affect the density. You need to understand the problem before you start going to it. So SB 79, there should be a big paragraph amendment to say, except Los Angeles to have A, B, C, D, and all what I was trying to tell you. Right now, we're facing a big battle, Victory and Balboa. Wildly, the council member tried to push there a big building without traffic study. They are exempt from traffic study. They are exempt from environmental impact. They are exempt from any restrictions. Hence, they dump the building in the middle of a zone that is already overpopulated with people. There is not enough schools. And when I asked the politicians what you're going to do with this building and the school across the street is full, they go, we assume the residents will be elderly who doesn't need any schooling. Things like that. And we ask them about the parking. They tell you, we assume they're just going to use the transit. They're not going to have a car. How about visitors? Well, they tell me they are old enough not to have visitors anymore. That's the logic of the politicians we have today serving the city of Los Angeles. So SB 79, let them play with it anywhere except Los Angeles.
We're speaking with Asaad Alnajjar. He is running for Los Angeles mayor against Karen Bass in 2026. Now, Karen Bass, when she ran against Rick Caruso in 2022, said her signature issue would be solving the homelessness crisis. She started a program called Project Inside Safe. It has a budget every year of over $880 million. How would you grade that program?
If I can do below F, I will give it below F. Look, You give people money without, it's like you're giving a Ferrari to someone who never drove a car and you say, go race and get get the first prize. She gave all the positions, all the administration of those programs with no knowledge on to do anything. And with all that money, all it is disappearing somewhere. We requested a lot of audits. I personally volunteered many times that I would be the deputy mayor in charge of homeless, and I was rejected. The homeless, you need to address it to the grassroots. You need to understand the family homeless, the addiction homeless, the veteran homeless, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. Each case is by each case. Each one, we do have solutions we've been, as engineers, thinking of the past 10 years. But her administration and all her deputies, all her staff are incompetent. They don't even understand what we're talking about. I mean, I go to these meetings, and maybe I'll be in trouble for saying these things. Talking to a wall, probably the wall, I will have more traction out of it from her deputies.
I can kind of see where you're coming from on that one. Yeah, so you're not on board with the idea of, well, let's just buy a bunch of hotel rooms at the cost of $17,000 per person per year.
Exactly, because look at it this way. Buying them, and I'll give you examples I encounter. I deal with the homeless the past 18 years on one-to-one. We got them to a motel. We put them in the motel. Everybody is happy and dandy. Then we come in 2-3 days later. There is nobody in the motel, but I find them that they took the pillows and the blankets and went around the corner, and they left their stuff and their goods in the room as a, storage area. And when you tell them why, they go, well, the testing. You have to get to the grassroots. You have to understand. I'll give you the success stories. I'm not going to just stay on the negative. Some of the people that I managed to take them to downtown, and they work right now as labor for the flower mart. They earn a living. They get food from the food trucks that passes by, and at night they go to the mission. When they need medical help, there is the USC dentistry clinic around on San Pedro, around that area, and they go take care of them. So there is solutions, but you have to get to the grassroots. There is, and I keep telling you, there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Each category is different than the other. A success story I share that I learned from my colleague, the mayor of Irvine, Larry Egeron. They have detection system. They know where the family is going to go into poverty and they're going to be homeless, and they take care of them like at least 60 days before they get to be a homeless. Things like that. We have nothing. All we have is the NIMBYs and the YIMBYs. And that's not a solution. We have, as a community, and these are not just mere words, these are action items. We have together to come in hand by hand and fix the issue together with the experts.
We're speaking with Asaad Alnajjar. He's running for Los Angeles mayor. Now, another big crisis is the LAPD staffing shortage. We are somewhere around 8,600 officers, well below what is needed to police this city. All the recruitment efforts, the increase in academies, signing bonuses haven't really produced a lot of results. What would you do differently to tackle that issue?
Okay. So basically, I work for the past 10 years as a volunteer in the evening with LAPD on their public advisory board. And I understand where you're coming from with the question. For the past 20 years, we've been stagnated at the 8,000 sworn officers. The problem is Karen Bass stopped the cadets academy in which they were doing a lot of the paperwork. So anybody between 18 and 21 was kicked out of the program. Those 18 to 21 were doing all the photocopy, the typing, the filing, whatever the sworn officers are doing. So that's one category. Then you come to the other one. She slashed away all the civilians and the volunteers such as myself, in which we were doing the desk jobs. The way I go about it is to re-engineer the whole LAPD is done, reinstate the cadets to do all these non-critical tasks that are needed, and then bring back the civilians to answer the 911 calls, bring back the civilians to do a lot of the outreach, the training of the non-essential. So rebudget, really rebudget, reorganize. It's like I'm getting a wreck. And by the way, Wednesday, it was brought to my attention by one of the local captains here in the valley for the LAFD. The LAFD is not in a good shape either. For the past 21 years, they are still at 3,400. These numbers need to be doubled because we are living in a chaotic era. We don't know what's going to hit us. If an earthquake hits right now, we're not ready. We're really not ready. And I don't know what they're going to do about it. You have an emergency operations center, and she appointed her girlfriend there as the manager without any qualifications. While you have people like me and many even more trained than me in the city of LA with G191, G175 training, meaning we could run the emergency operations center as certified by the state of California. You cannot just bring someone because they are your girlfriend and give them thousands of dollars salary for doing nothing. You can't. Look at Palisades. Palisades, I blame her directly, 100%. And I take offense that she calls it natural disaster. This was not a natural disaster. It's not.
Well, I think everything that we've seen coming out now shows that there were a lot of failures, and Karen Bass is trying to have her appointed LAFD chief say, well, there was nothing differently we could have done. It was just so awful. There was nothing we could change about that. We've only got about a minute and a half to go. I got to get this last question in because it's the one that's most close to my heart as someone that has been born and raised in Los Angeles. Traffic here is hell. Traffic is awful. Driving around this city is mind-numbingly horrible. What do you do about it?
Okay, so I go back to my planning committees. Look, I've been involved in the planning since day one when I was hired in 1989. I'll give you an example. In 1990, I started working on the, the 405 widening. And we use data that we will be ready for traffic for 2020. By the time we finished construction, Caltrans knew we are not even meeting 2030. So enhance and add more of the transit. That's what I've been doing, and I'm involved with it. But the transit, people will not use it until you really have safety. Plus, if you're using the transit and you go to the station, there is no parking for your car to be parked. So it's like, what, you're going to bike or walk to the station? What I'm going to do about it is reorganize the way we have the traffic system, get all the engineers back to getting more of the transit, and work effectively both with the county and with the city to enhance on the safety on the transit. Once you have all those, our trains are beautiful. I've used it so many times from Bundy Station in West LA to our building, the Public Works. 17 minutes. 17 minutes, a beautiful ride. Versus in the freeway, it's a good 45 minutes.
If you'd like to learn more about his campaign, you can go to lamayor2026.org. That's lamayor2026.org. Asaad Alnajjar running for Los Angeles mayor. Thanks so much for spending time with us.
Thank you for hosting me. Thank you.
There you go. We're taking your phone calls, 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Gavin Newsom has signed Scott Wiener's SB 79, which will drastically change zoning around transit hubs in all the major counties in California, although San Bernardino and Riverside got exempted. But the major counties in Southern California and the major counties in the Bay Area are all covered, and anywhere that's near a transit stop is automatically upzoned to a 7-story building. Let's go to the phone. Start with Jack in Antioch. Jack, hello.
Hello, sir. Hello. I got a couple of adjectives for the politicians and the situation that happened to me. I was damaged by this. So I'm going to say this. One is the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over, hoping to get a different result. The politicians are blind guides, and they're slumlords. That's really what they are, and usually with bribes. I bought a house in a certain city, in a certain neighborhood. I watched it turn to Section 8, slum, and the city turned to basically a ghetto. And I said, I'm out of here. And so I moved to a different city, different neighborhood, which is a lot better. However, I'm at a crossroads in my time where I have to decide if I'm going to stay in California or move out of California. It's wise for me to move out of California and take like another person earlier. It's financially wiser, more profitable for me to leave California and move to a different state. So I'm at that crossroads right now. And if I only go leave California, the politicians go crazy, which they're starting to do that. So I just want to tell you that's what I'm dealing with right now. So I just want to let you know.
Well, I feel you. And the thing is, even with all the efforts of the last 7-8 years to build more housing, make it easier to build more housing, it hasn't made any of it cheaper. And if anything, it's made things more expensive here. And it is people still cannot afford to live here. Even if you build these high rises, it doesn't mean they're going to be cheap. And you can only put so many people in there with Section 8 before it becomes like what you said. And unfortunately, I understand why people are leaving. Jack, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. I'll give you an interesting story. This radio station currently is in Culver City, but for many, many years, we were on a property in West Adams at La Cienega and Fairfax, one of the worst places in the world for traffic. Also, yeah, I can say this, a pretty scary neighborhood. The Taco Bell across the street, you had to slide your money through a little drawer like you were in prison. And you would talk to the guy selling you your chalupas through 3-inch thick bulletproof glass. The reason we're not at that property anymore is because a developer bought the land that our radio station was on for $100 million. Now, we didn't see any of that money, but the company did. And so we sold that land. We moved here and moved in with Westwood One. And they built a luxury development. Why? Because the Expo line had a stop right there. The Jefferson stop was right next to this property. And what did they build there? They built a massive, massive tower. Maybe you've driven past it, called the Cumulus, which again is funny because that's the name of this company, but they're not related. And do you know how expensive those units are? For a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 820 square foot apartment, they start at $4,000. And let me just remind you, even though they have built this building, that is still a scary ass part of town. I don't understand who's living there. Because if you can afford $4,000 for your monthly rent, I get to imagine you'd rather be in somewhere a little nicer and maybe not in a 1-bedroom apartment. But I don't understand what the point of any of this is. There's nothing even around there to do, but it's near transit, so I guess you can get on there and get to Santa Monica in a half hour. Let's go to Doug in Fairfax. Doug, hello.
Hey, thank you for taking my call, Randy. A couple of quick points. In tiny little Fairfax, California, where I live, 7,000 people, there's a builder's remedy building going up. It's going to be 7 stories. It's not low income. It's luxury apartments with a small set aside for what's called below market rate. Studio will be $2,000. There is one way out of Fairfax in the event of a fire from San Geronimo Valley, and that is through the hub in San Anselmo, where 40,000 cars go every day. So this is just the destruction of our small town. And the home values will drop. And to the DSA, of course, that's not a bug, it's a feature. As far as Scott, let me tell you a couple of things why this is happening. It's happening because Scott Wiener gets a lot of building campaign contributions, and that's why he wins his elections. The electricians, the plumbers, the builders, the contractors will all donate to him. But he's a complete fraud because, as you said, he's been doing this for 7 years, but he also was a San Francisco supervisor for 12 years before that. And the population of San Francisco has remained virtually unchanged since 1950. Well, I'm sorry, it was higher, now it's not. And I think when the 2025 census update comes out, it'll be less than 1950. So this is all a fraud and really the ruination of our suburbs.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of truth in what you're saying. And the fact that we look at what happened with the fires at the beginning of this year in Southern California, and we've decided, no, what we need to do is not build any more roads, just dense up even more housing into places that can't handle it, shows that we have not learned our lessons. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Let's go to Joyce in Eagle Rock. Joyce, hello.
Yeah, hey, Randy. I just wanted to be clear on something. When you use the phrase, or when the phrase is used, transit hub, I think many people think that's like a Metrolink station or something. What that means is a bus stop. So every bus stop is a transit hub. So that means up and down every major boulevard, we have transit hubs that are called bus stops. I live over here in Eagle Rock, and on the boulevard of the block that I live on, they're building a 30-unit building with no parking. It's designed with no parking. That is just going to cause havoc for all the adjacent blocks associated with that new building going up, because they can do that because there's a bus stop on every corner. And I just think that this is insanity to do to people. You know, I don't know. That's just my comment because I wanted people to know that bus stops are transit hubs. Okay?
Well, you make a really strong point. And this whole idea of, well, if we don't build the parking, people won't own cars has not panned out. What it does is it pushes parking restrictions and pushes so much hell onto the neighbors who now have to share all of the street parking they did have with everyone else that doesn't have it, and it causes all kinds of fights. And we don't see people moving into these places and be like, no, the only form of transportation I'll ever use is public. People are still going to own cars. Our public transportation doesn't go to nearly enough places to make it efficient, and even then so, people are still going to own cars.
I am so glad that you understand, because myself, I'm a senior citizen, and when I come home with my groceries and there's nowhere to park, how far am I going to have to walk carrying my groceries to get to my home? I mean, this is nuts.
Oh, you're totally right about that. I feel for you, Joyce. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. You remember this story in Koreatown just a couple weeks ago where you have apartment buildings in Koreatown that have gotten approval from the city to build ADUs in their existing parking lots. So taking away existing parking, and when we're talking about old buildings with carports and turning those into little shacks. But what does that do? That means the people that have been living in those buildings now no longer have parking. And so you have a lot of senior citizens who may have mobility issues that now have to park 2 blocks away. That is not how you run a city. But unfortunately, that's what we're seeing. Let's go to Hector in Southgate. Hector, hello.
Thank you, Randy. This, I'm telling you, I'm so upset with these guys. I can spit. I'm telling you, we need to get rid of these people. We need to tar and feather them on the way out. It's going to destroy the suburban life over here in California. You know, wherever the neighborhoods. You know, with no parking, that's going to create more crime, more traffic. Like you said, senior citizens, where are they going to go to when they can't find parking? They can't walk far. I'm telling you, they need to be removed from office. That Wiener guy. I have a question though. Can that be rescinded with a new mayor?
Well, it's a state law, so one, you would need a new governor, but you would also need a new legislature, and I'm not an expert on this, but I would say I'm sure there's a way that if enough people are upset about this, you can put a citizens initiative out, we can put something on the ballot that would change this and rewrite those housing laws, because you can do, that's one of the things you can do. California has direct democracy, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are groups already trying to figure out what they can do about this.
Yeah, we definitely need to do that. This morning, I mailed my voter initiative ID. I mailed that in today. We've got to get rid of these maniacs. That Gavin Newsom, he's been no good since the get-go. First thing he did was put a moratorium on the death penalty. The guy is a piece of you-know-what. And that Wiener, he could care less. Yeah, they've got to go. I'm telling you. All I can say is thank God we have Trump in office.
Well, thanks so much for the call, Hector. We appreciate it. Let's go to Larry in Hayward. Larry, hello.
Hi. The reason I called is to tell you that I believe that this SB 79 is a piece of garbage, and it's not going to be doing anything good for California. But what it is going to do is probably something good for the governor, because he wants to be president. He wants to get his name out there. But what he also wants is the money from the people who are going to be the contractors. The people are going to tear down the buildings that are there already, the people that are going to build up the new buildings. And as far as things like parking, which people have been mentioning, Gavin Newsom's idea would be that California should look very much like cities in Russia, where they have these huge apartment buildings. Nobody has a car. They all are dependent upon the government. And the government actually owns most of the housing. And that is what his goal is. And why does he sign these things? He signs them because there's something in it for him, not because he wants to do anything nice for anybody in California. The man is a snake.
Well, you make some really strong points, Larry. Thanks so much for the call. You know, Gavin Newsom does look through everything out of the lens of how does this affect my next job? And one of those things that he's probably looking at is that on that side of the political aisle, there is a building movement, the abundance people, the Ezra Klein people, the YIMBY crowd, and they are all celebrating Gavin Newsom today. This is the most significant legislation the YIMBY people have ever seen. Which, all right, and again, their theory is we've got to build as much housing as fast as possible by 2030, or California is going to lose more congressional seats, and that's the thing that they're trying to stop. But you can build as much as you want. If it doesn't actually end up being cheaper, people are still going. It's just unfortunately what's going to happen. Let's go to Ron in Rodeo. Ron, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great.
The reason I'm calling, two comments. Well, first comment is I have a brother-in-law that lived in Anaheim. He's already passed away. But he had a nice house, and there was a piece of property right next to him, pretty big piece of property, and they built a 3-story complex there. And then I gather one of your other comments was that they're going to look down at his property. No, what they did is they threw garbage on his property. They had no concern about the property. They just threw their garbage out. And I'm not telling you this just to fake it or anything. That's what happened. The other item is, as long as we keep voting for these people, we're going to get the same old baloney. And that's kind of like the way I feel.
I think a lot of people, especially people listening to this show, totally understand what you're saying. Thanks so much for the call, Ron. Appreciate it. You know, I have to find the email, but we got an email that put out a really interesting point. If you start building, thanks to the zoning changes, 7-story buildings next to single-family homes, what if that single-family home had solar panels? I'm going to guess they're not getting sunshine anymore. Let's go to Richard in San Jose. Richard, hello.
How are we doing, buddy?
Doing great.
Hey, I just thought it was something worth thinking about here. Is Gavin Newsom is beholden to a much larger crowd. There's a thing called the WEF, and they have a belief in a 15-minute city. Everybody lives in a little box. You own nothing, and you're happy. That's Gavin Newsom in a nutshell. He's beholden to these people.
Well, I don't know how exactly they're going to make me happy if I'm living in a tiny little box that I'm paying rent for the rest of my life. But, yeah, I see what you're saying. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Your reaction to Gavin Newsom signing Scott Wiener's SB 79. Let's get right back to the phones. We're going to go to Jennifer in West L.A. Jennifer, hello.
Hey, Randy. How you doing?
Doing great.
I'm in Cheviot Hills, which I'm very fortunate. It's a very beautiful part in West Los Angeles. And I grew up here. I lived here. I moved back in 20 years ago to take care of my mom who had cancer. And then my dad got Alzheimer's. So I'm not a Prop 13, like a spoiled child coming in to take a house and flip it. I live here and I have multiple sclerosis now. My entire neighborhood is as far left as can be, yet they come out now and say, oh, maybe you should email Gavin Newsom. And if they all vote for him, they all have the yard signs. I am terrified. I live next to a corner house, and I live in beautiful houses. Cheviot Hills, if you look it up, it's a very affluent neighborhood. My dad went to a one-room schoolhouse and worked his way up in Illinois and came here, became a lawyer, and bought this house so we could have, like, safety. And to know that my whole neighborhood could get destroyed, the value of my house could get destroyed, my next-door neighbors who only live in the country for around 2 months a year can sell their house in a 7-story. I'm just so livid with California, Los Angeles, these policies, these voters, the leaders, just everyone.
I feel your frustration, Jennifer. It's especially when you've lived your entire life here to know the life that you've known for so long could disappear this quickly with one piece of legislation. I feel you. Thanks so much for your call. Thanks for sharing with us. Let's go to Ryan in Agora. Ryan, hello.
Hi, Randy. I just wanted to make a comment. The one caller that was saying that a transit hub includes bus stops. If you do the math, a half mile from a bus stop in the San Fernando Valley pretty much covers the entire San Fernando Valley, not to mention where I'm at now in Agora. There's bus stops everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Now, I'm reading some things that there have been some amendments that happened to the bill that watered it down a little bit before it was finally passed, where, according to Cal Matters, it only applies to train, subway, light rail, and high-frequency bus routes with designated lanes. But from what I also heard from Monica Rodriguez is anything that's proposed immediately gets upzoned. So a city can just say, oh, we're going to turn that bus stop into a dedicated bus lane someday, and now that can get upzoned to 7 stories. It's a wild time to be in L.A. County, that's for sure. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. You know, I just had a thought. This radio station in Culver City is a half mile away from a transit stop. Developers going to buy out this land too, and we're going to have to move again, aren't we? Maybe this time we can move to the valley. It's the John Phillips Show. We got one more hour to go. Stay with us.